I'm Cuban. The amount of times I've heard people say, "Oh, did you swim over here? Did you come on a boat?" Cuban.
I've said that.
Exactly. The amount of jokes, and it's just jokes. I think it's like, two things. He should have known his audience. Like, maybe not the best place to make that kind of a joke.
I think that the fact that he made that joke at a Trump rally, it is about knowing your audience, because people will say, oh, because you're a Trump supporter, you're racist.
Yeah.
And it's essentially manufactured outrage.
We can't talk respectfully amongst one another. We're no better than, a bunch of animals going in.
Why can't we be friends?
Because you're Cuban.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Only Lawsuits podcast, where we cover lawsuits going on around the country, along with moments in pop culture. Today, we have a very, very special guest, our good friend, Oliver. Oliver is currently a civil litigation attorney, formerly an assistant state attorney. Welcome, Oliver.
Thanks. Pleasure to be here.
All right.
Thank you for coming, Oliver.
I do what I can, Got to help the people.
We've got the Mike and Oliver bromance here. So today's first topic is something that we've had a few requests for, which is digital identity theft and how you can protect yourself. So Mike, you've dealt with those types of cases prior. How about you get us started?
Digital identity theft is tough. I have personally handled one or two cases for both corporate clients and individual clients, where, someone from another country or someone is using their business identity or their personal identity on social media or for different business platforms. One of the ways I've seen it was that, a company was using an Airbnb property for rental, but they really weren't. They were renting it out to people and using Airbnb's listing. It was weird, but they weren't tied to the property at all. So people were like paying money to this company, and it just kind of like they were the real owners were getting hit with a bunch of complaints. With those types of situations, it is very hard to defend against those things. But number one, you always want to try to do your due diligence, and with technology, getting the police involved is a very important thing. There are, you can call down to the police station non-emergency lines and file police reports. And have you ever seen anything like that while you were working at the state attorney's office, where people would like make police reports that the state attorney didn't pick up or anything like that?
I mean, there was a lot of times where you'd see police reports, and like after doing your due diligence and looking into it, you realize that they were like false allegations. Like they were just, people just trying to throw mud on other people. But, I had those. When it comes to like identity theft, there was a whole separate division at the state attorney's office that handled like the white collar crimes, like the financial crimes and stuff like that. So anytime like the case would come in, it would always go to like one of the lower attorneys. But the second you saw that it was like a white collar or something like that, you just push it up the chain and they would deal with it. So I never really got a chance to deal with it. Wasn't there long enough.
Do you know, if you had to guesstimate based off your handling of like things when you were assistant state attorney, what are some things that people could do to like, protect themselves from digital identity theft when it comes to reporting? Like what should they, put in the report?
You really just got to, worry about like things like your credit cards, your driver's license. When it comes to doing formal police reports, the best is always to do them in person. Mm-hmm. As terrible as it is, even in today's world, you're like, you never know who you're talking to on the phone. Police reports are always best to do them in person, like in front of a police officer, because you are giving away a lot of confidential information, and God forbid you Google a phone number to file a police report, and you end up calling the wrong number and giving away your confidential information.
Imagine you're going to file a police report for a scam, and then you get scammed on top of this. Dude, that would be
it's crazy, because even as simple as I'll never forget one time I went to go change my mailing address, and I Googled it, and the first thing that came up, it was probably one of those sponsored links, and I didn't realize it was sponsored. And it took me to a website that had like the postal service icon on it and everything. I put on it put in all my information. Is like, oh, it's going to be $130. Let's say. I was like, what? I heard this was supposed to be free. And I did it because I didn't know any better. And it ended up being like a third party service that goes and does it for you. So they charge you like $120 to do what should cost $3. Long story short, like, situations like that, it's like people don't know any better. Like if you Google how to file a police report, it could take you to some random website, where you put in all this confidential information, so especially for like the older people, you really have to be cognizant of like who you're talking to, who you're giving your information to, because it could always get used against you.
Yeah. And that's something that, I would always recommend, like Oliver said, right on point, know who you're dealing with. Because when you do things in person, for instance, going to the police station, file a police report, or you can call the non-emergency line. Most of the time they'll send a sheriff out to you to come and fill out the report. That's things that, you can do in person. It takes time, but it's vital because you don't want to give away confidential information. Another thing, when it comes to identity theft is be very careful when you're looking at emails. And you're responding to emails with private information. There's a lot of what we see in the law firm sense. We see a lot of people, my staff will get emails from Michael Singh. It's named Michael Singh. But when you like click the name on Outlook and you see like the email handle, it's like, it's like Franklin the Hippo at like, nonshawa.com or something, so it's like, you always, and my staff will be like, one of my staff members, which she's always on here, I wish she was here today, Farah, she actually got taken advantage of using an email that came from me, literally as she was sitting, like randomly not in the office. It was a weird situation where my phone had got messed up. So I was using my iPad to communicate, and somehow, some way, someone used an email with my handle, with my name on it. It wasn't my email at all. It was in no way connected to me, but they literally like got her to almost believe I asked for her to send her, gift cards.
Dude, same exact thing happened at my old law firm. My boss. So long story short, the boss that I used to work for, he was in a different department. So I never got emails from him. One day, randomly, I get an email from, I won't say his name, but from my boss. And I was like, that's odd. Like, I never talked to this guy. And then I open the email and it's like, oh, I'm in a meeting. I can't leave right now. I need you to go get me some gift cards. I was like, this doesn't sound right. And I screenshot it and sent it to my IT department. And I got it twice.
It goes to show, like, literally, these scammers, they're good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's stupid, but look, Oliver and I are attorneys. You deal with the tech world too, and you handle all of our marketing stuff. I know you've gotten emails and stuff from different scammers.
Yeah, I've gotten quite a few. And before I delve into some protections that you can implement on your own end before it gets to that point, I want you to tell a quick story about how it can affect businesses as well. Because you had a situation prior to me coming here where an individual tried to or successfully cashed a large sum check from the law firm.
Yeah. So in that situation, we had a situation where they were stealing checks, and they went to the post. They literally like broke into the mailbox at the post office, the one that you drop things in. And they stole the check, washed the check horribly. And this is when Truist was kind of going through a transition from SunTrust to Truist. It was kind of similar to that Chase fraud thing that was going on where you could, deposit cash and checks and it would be available. They took a $5 check that we wrote to pay for a medical bill for a client, and they put like $15,000 or $20,000 on it. And when we saw the scan of it, thank God Truist called us and was like, did you guys write a $20,000 check? And I was like, let me check the check. And I was like, no, we don't have any log of that in our system. Thank God it wasn't my trust account, because trust account issues are huge. But when it comes to my operating, that's my money. You know what I'm saying? So we see a lot of money coming in and out of our bank accounts as lawyers just because we're processing a ton of transactions. But, literally we got hit with that. And it was one of the things that, this was a printed check. It wasn't even handwritten. They're getting that skillful, and they'll go to these things. We even knew who it was. And the shitty thing is, like, even though we were 100% ready to willing to prosecute, like, I'm the most pettiest person in the world. I'm like, literally, the fact that if you will try to screw me, I will go out of my way to make sure I do everything in my power to screw you. And this was a situation where I couldn't even do much unless I was willing to throw good money at bad money and pursue them civilly, because the police, they didn't really do much for us. It happened in South Florida, which is notorious for fraud and bank stuff. But one of the things that I do to prevent that is now I go and take the mail to the mail office, or I hand it to my mail carrier, because I don't deal with that shit anymore. And it's a risk, right? So, that's some things that I recommend for people is, number one, know who they're dealing with.
Yes.
Look at your emails. Look, if it seems suspicious, if it doesn't pass the sniff test, definitely question it. Number two, if it happens to you, document the shit out of it. Go call the police, file a police report, because if it's happening to you, if it happened to you, chances are it happened to 10 other people and they just didn't report it. So you reported, it helps put things in perspective for people like Oliver mentioned with financial crimes to start looking into this and see if this is a trend. Number three, look and see. Sometimes you have insurance that covers this. There's some insurance companies have liability policies to help protect you. There's also, many companies you can hire that help with like electronic data protection and stuff like that. Look into companies like that. Those are the things that I'd recommend, from a personal level and a business owner level.
And that's a great recommendation, especially on the tail end of that. I mean, both of you guys as attorneys who've handled these types of cases, you also know that for most law enforcement, it's also not the highest priority. So unless like there are exorbitant amounts of money involved, as somebody that is engaged digitally, and Mike is right, like I see a lot of emails that we get coming from scammers. You have things that fall through the cracks. And one thing that I'll tell anyone, as someone that has been a part of data breaches, is the easiest way to insure yourself is to add extra layers of verification when you log into these apps, right? I think a lot of people, when they have these apps, they are immediately used to the convenience of going on to another device and having Face ID log you in, and which is amazing. It's a great feature, but it also is only one factor.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you log into another device, people will just say, hey, you know what? I don't want to add this extra layer of verification where they send a code to my email.
Yeah.
And that is actually a great layer, a great additional layer, because only you should have access to your email and only you should have access to your cell phone, right? Especially when they text you those verification numbers to your cell phone.
Google has a great system. Like, for whatever reason on my Apple TV, like I get logged out of my YouTube all the time, or actually I'm not sure where it comes up. Basically, long story short, Google has a system where when you try to log on to a new device, it tells you, well, go pick up one of the devices that you're currently already logged in on and authenticate it. So like sometimes I go to log into YouTube on a new account and I have to pull out my phone, go onto YouTube and click, yes, this was me, and like log in. Cause I mean, I know I'm super guilty of like not wanting to do the multi-factor authentication. I love the Face ID stuff, but thankfully, like the way in today's world, like even if you do get an email with a code, like a lot of the times it just auto populates. Like you don't even have to go into the email. It'll just pop up as like a recommendation to put in the code. So,
well, yeah, another reason why it's good to have multi-factor authentication is because I don't know if you remember this movie called Face Off.
We're gonna play a clip of that movie for the younger audience that didn't see that John Woo classic. So,
Face Off, Nicolas Cage, John Travolta, American classic.
American
Watch
classic,
it,
yes.
and you'll understand exactly why you need two-factor authentication.
Super easy to do too. Like no surgeries involved.
No
whatsoever.
surgeries involved.
But listen, this reminded me. I don't even if I've ever told you this. So we got hired by a client, and this was a long time ago. This was like 2 years ago, where they asked us to try to find out, like we were trying to track down like the Indian embassy to like find a passport or some shit like that, bro. I kid you not. I went to the official government websites for India, and I did a little Instagram reel on this.
Yeah.
Literally, I dialed the website number. It was on the website, bro. It was like in whatever gov website for wherever it was. And bro,
wasn't it like a car warranty or something?
It took me to the warranty call center. I was like, you gotta be shitting me, dude. I
loved that. That was
so I don't even know if that was like, maybe I got scammed at that point.
But the lengths that these scammers will go to get your information is crazy. And the last thing I'll say is that you have to look at identity theft protection like layers of an onion, because there are actually stories of people who have gotten their financial information compromised by simply getting a shopping account hacked.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And based off of the hacker or the scammer getting into one, seemingly innocent account, they're able to scale that up to commit an even larger financial crime. Always pay attention. I mean, Mike and Oliver are giving really, really great advice on that. Always pay attention to who you're dealing with. Take the time because, although like we feel like we're younger and we're more on top of our digital identities, Oliver also brought up a great point that if you're older, you're a more vulnerable part of the population that isn't paying as close attention to these things.
My parents.
So,
dude, my mother-in-law, they got my mother-in-law. They, this is fucking hilarious. So literally they were like, someone called her and was like, they used to own a restaurant and they were like, oh, we're going to shut off your electricity. You haven't paid your bill. You got to pay us in gift cards.
Amazon cards too.
She literally went and started buying gift cards. I was like, dude. Jesus.
It sucks, but they know their target audience, man.
They do.
And the worst thing I should say about it is like, they don't need, if they send it to 100 people, they don't need all of them. They just need one person to fall for it. It's like that movie, The Beekeeper with Jason Statham.
I saw that movie. I saw that movie a few weeks ago. Dude. Yeah, it was actually great.
Yeah, it's a great movie. If you like, it's a Jason Statham movie. I mean, they're all the same. But long story short, in the movie, like one of his friends got her identity stolen because she called some random call center by mistake, and they're like, oh, you have this problem. Click here. We'll walk you through how to fix it. And she's like, oh, this smells a little bit fishy, but the guy did a great job of convincing her, and she lost millions of dollars. They cleaned out all of her bank accounts.
I'll tell you what.
And then Jason Statham went.
And that president, that president had the worst security detail in the history of security details. And this is a good segue because we have an election coming up. And by the time this episode comes out, the election will have already taken place. So go out and vote. But there's a couple key things, subtopics with this election going on. The first is Trump finally going on to Joe Rogan.
Yeah, man. And I know we've talked about this in the past, right? About how, transparency in politics is kind of something I like, right? I do like the fact that, when you look, I'm not a huge podcast person, but I have been getting into them.
You're currently hosting one.
I know, but this is because this is what the market demands. Giving the people what they want. So listen, but look, I started, getting into it, and that's what led me into getting into this. But I've been watching some of the Joe Rogan podcast and other, I watch the Hodge twins, and I tend to lean a little bit more conservative on a lot of stuff. But I watch all sorts of weird shit. But so I
As
was
long as it's
watching.
Republican.
We know where this guy leans. We know where he's leaning. So
Leaning Tower of Pisa. But no, what I was saying is like the reason I like Joe Rogan is he just gets into it, right?
Yeah.
And Oliver is a big fan of Rogan. You know, talk to me about his style.
What I like about Rogan is that like he gets very detailed and he tries to like, I mean, obviously everybody, you can always tell like Joe Rogan, I think he claims to be like a libertarian, but in the eyes of the everyday person, he leans more conservative. But even if you put that aside, like I think I really like that he always seems extremely educated in what he's talking about. And if he doesn't know what he's talking about, he lets the person that's in front of him educate him on the topic. And he's had experts in all kinds of fields. And, you know, he always has, you know, documentation of where he's getting his information from. You know, he's got his little minions in the back that pull up stuff on the TV. And I love that he's always super informed. And he's not one to like only listen to his side of the story. You know, he gets people on there all the time. Granted, I don't listen to all of them because they're forever, but he gets people on there all the time that disagree with him. Yeah. And he's not afraid to like, you know, debate them and call them out on their.
And like I watched a majority of the Trump podcast with him, and dude, amazing. Like it made me kind of like it makes me lean more and more towards voting for someone when I hear them just talk.
Yeah. Because
here's the thing. Like, look, the hilarious. Trump was an hilarious president. I thought he was the funniest person in the world. And when Joe Rogan brought up the whole North Korea interaction, right? He basically the way Trump outlined it, he was like, yeah, you know, Kim Jong-un called me up and was like, yo, let's talk. And then he literally, the way he said it, he was like, yeah, I talked to him and I was like, why don't you just stop building nuclear weapons? You've got a beautiful coastline here. Let's build some condos.
Let's build some resorts.
I was like, dude, if he really did that shit's hilarious. But then like Trump segues into how he like called him Little Rocket Man and how Trump's like, I have a bigger rocket than you. And I was like, this guy's great, right? So like that made me like, it makes me as a voter, it makes me feel more comfortable with them. Kind of like you should know who you're dealing with. Yeah. Kamala Harris, she has been invited to go on Trump. Rogan literally invited her. Her campaign responded and was like, oh, we only want to allow for an hour and then you have to go to her and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, I don't think you get what he's trying to actually help you because look, he's had Trump's been on Theo Von, Trump's been on Rogan, and JD Vance has been on Rogan and Theo Von, I believe.
And Dave Ramsey, who's again another, I think a big issue with these people with interviews is that they only want to go to like the softball interviews, like especially
what ice cream do you like?
Exactly. Or like, you know, people that are going to agree with everything that they're saying. Yeah. You know, because granted, like I said, Joe Rogan's pretty conservative. You know, she doesn't want to have to deal with that.
Kamala went on Club Shay Shay. I've never watched Club Shay. It's with Shannon Sharp, and I
did see that. Like
he's a pretty good interviewer though. Like
I love Shannon Sharp.
Shannon Sharp is a pretty good interviewer. He you know, of course, it goes without saying, like he might have more liberal leaning tendencies, but he's a great interviewer. But Kamala going on there, you guys hit the nail on the head. It's another interview catered to her.
Yeah.
Well, what I don't like about it is I saw some of the clips and it seems like she was tailoring her interview to his audience.
I did see that. Which I mean,
when it comes to but here's my thing, dude. Just be yourself.
True.
Like don't put a Southern accent on when you're in the South.
That's bad. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like just be yourself, bro. That's what I want. I want someone to be genuine.
Yeah.
This is what I'll say. I think we've talked about it prior, and I think both of you guys can attest to it. Regardless of whether you agree with where Trump stands on political, on certain political issues, the thing that you have to constantly give him credit for is that he constantly puts himself in the eye of the storm.
Yeah.
So whether it's good publicity or bad publicity, he doesn't shy away from any interview. Now, this could be an interview on Fox News, maybe with Tucker Carlson, maybe with Dave Ramsey, where they're going to be asking him a bit more softball questions. They're more conservative leaning. But then he'll go out to the event for black journalists.
Yeah.
And he'll be getting asked extremely tough questions on stage where they won't let him finish, his questions. He'll go on any interview, and regardless of whether they're kind to him or not, he will put himself, into the fire and answer like these very tough questions. Like Kamala, my perspective on her is I have to say that if I'm being pragmatic, she's running a very condensed campaign from being announced the nominee to the election. So she hasn't had as much time to introduce herself to voters. But because you haven't had a lot of time to introduce yourself, do you not think it would be wise to also put yourself front and center for people to actually get to know who you are?
I mean, my fiance, we talk about this all the time. It's kind of like you said, people don't know enough about her. I mean, I saw a clip, and granted it was a clip, but I still saw a clip where someone asked Kamala questions about her policies, and she was like, oh, go to KamalaHarris.com and all of my policies are listed there. Like, how are you going to answer a question like that? Like, you're trying to be getting people to vote for you. Don't tell them to go read. I'm a lawyer. I don't want to go read your policies. Give me like a 2-minute soundbite of what your policies are going to be so I can vote for you. Like, when Trump went on Dave Ramsey specifically said that he's been trying to reach out to both parties, and that if Kamala came on the podcast, he was going to ask her the same exact questions that he asked Trump. So, they wouldn't be asking separate questions based on like their policies and stuff. So it wouldn't have been a hard interview or a softball interview, and she still refused to get on it, or has not been on it, I should say.
The worst thing a politician can do, and I love the fact that Oliver said that, I love the fact that you said that, is that when they are asked these tough questions about their policies, and this is for both parties, and I've seen multiple candidates do it, is go to my website and read about my policies. Nobody is going to do that. That's the last thing that I want to do after watching your interview.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, and it goes down like I'll cite back to things Trump's done, right? Trump will say, what's your immigration policy? Build the wall. And literally, like, you can go to his website and look at his policies, and it's literally just build the wall.
I mean, that's semi self-explanatory too. Like, how much more do you need? Like,
he is a character, man.
Yeah.
Look, by the time this episode comes back, one of them are going to be our president.
I know who my money's on.
Yeah, and realistically, I mean, look at the market. So there's like a thing you can bet on the election, and literally the market, the gambling market is betting on Trump winning, and frankly, I mean, this is like literally the people who like, if I was going to look at a real poll to determine who's going to win something, that is based off of the results of people interacting, right? Like voting. I would look at the gambling market, because who gambles? Regular people. They're directly resulting, the people that are gambling are directly contributing to the result of the election, right?
At the same time, though, like, I feel like, I have a friend of mine who I know for a fact is not going to vote for Donald Trump. But when you ask him, who would you put your money on to win the election? He would say Donald Trump.
Yeah.
So, I don't know that the betting odds or anything like that are like a representation of what the people are voting for.
Yeah. No, I agree and I understand, but I'm saying, like, it's a better market analysis, I think, than a poll where
for sure
you have some random dude saying,
in New York City.
Yeah, in New York, in Manhattan. Or like, that's the problem, is the polls are so skewed.
Yeah.
And one skew, like, I can see right now they're saying Trump's leading in the polls. What's that going to do? That's going to get the Democrats scared. We gotta
Let's
vote.
Go get in a poll.
But then it's the same thing. Like, on election day, you'll always see a Democrat lead, but then the Republicans balance out. And because this is the mail-in election stuff, right? So did you see in Orlando, it was literally in Orlando, someone, postal workers being charged with a bunch of criminal stuff for mail-in ballot. Like they went and tossed a bunch of mail-in ballots supposedly. So I didn't do too much research on it, but I saw, some stuff floating around the internet. But that's the kind of shit, like we're in a weird situation where the whole voting and mail-in ballot system and all this stuff is crazy.
We live in the greatest country in the world. All of us here have traveled. I love the USA. And
I only travel to the US.
Yeah. Mike will only travel through Florida.
Where the water is.
Yes, exactly. Mike's idea of traveling is, hey, Mike, where are you going next? Oh, a new part of the Keys.
Can I bring the boat?
Can I bring the boat? That is the question. But, we live in the greatest country, in the world. And I trust our election process, but that does not mean that I don't think that there is some sort of election fraud that goes on, statistically. So 99%, like no election across the world is 100% accurate. And Mike brought up that point.
Russia is.
Yeah. Well, unless you're in Russia or North Korea, where Putin and Kim Jong-un are winning 99% of the vote.
Russia is.
Yeah, exactly.
If you don't vote for Putin, you know what's going to happen.
Yeah, you know exactly what's going to happen. Yeah, like we live in a great country where I do feel like your vote, of course, does matter. And mail-in ballots, as convenient as they are, if you truly want your vote to count even more, go out to the polls and cast your vote that way. But before we delve more into Trump himself directly, he recently held a campaign event in Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
And there's a comedian who we're all familiar with, Tony Hinchcliffe. Yeah. We'll play the clip. And you guys will see that he made a few unsavory comments, one being about Puerto Rico. Now, Mike, what did you think about that comment? Or what do you think about that joke, I should actually say?
So look,
that was a good distinction you made there. I appreciate that.
I watched it, and look, is it the proper form to make that sort of joke? Probably not. But given who it came from, number one, a comedian. Number two, his style of comedy. Tony Hinchcliffe is brutal, bro.
He's a roast comedian.
He's a roast comedian. And like, I watch Kill Tony all the time. And bro, he literally has like had people with disabilities up there and he'll just go in on them. And, I think he's gay. I think like he kind of checks the boxes the Democrats want, like highly influential. He's got a good following. He's literally, but like in their category, but he's not voting along the things that they want. Cause he literally would be you see comedians like, Kathy Griffin, which she, it was a comedian that went to their side. You see a lot of celebrities that tend to shift to the Democrat side. But you have this guy, Tony Hinchcliffe, which he's just coming off the high of the Tom Brady roast, right? And literally he's super influential. Now, he made the super controversial comment / joke. And I watched another group of podcasters or YouTubers, the Hodge twins, and they were talking about how it kind of was misconstrued. Supposedly there's like a landfill or trash problem in Puerto Rico. Look, bad joke, bad timing. But at the end of the day, it's still a joke. Like I literally talk to other people that are from Puerto Rico or Puerto Rican descent. I have family members that are Puerto Rican. A majority of them never said they were offended. And a lot of them are like, yeah, it's a little screwed up, but hey, it is what it is. They're not going to attribute what he said to Trump. Funny thing is, George Lopez did something similar, and we'll play the clip for you.
Enough lies. Donald Trump said he was going to build a wall, and George Lopez said, you better build it in one day, because if you leave that material out there overnight, he also said that he was going to get Mexico to pay for the wall. I wish you would have asked me. We can't even really split a check at a restaurant, but It sounded nice at the time. I have known Kamala Harris for 16 years. And she is the real deal. That is who she is. She comes from a great family. I knew her mother. They called her mommy. She said, call me mommy. I said, I'd love to. A scientist, a 5-foot woman who said to her children when something didn't go their way, what are you going to do now? How are you going to handle that?
In that clip, it literally is kind of similar. He basically insinuates that, Mexicans are going to steal the equipment or the building tools for the wall if it's not built in 24 hours. So it's like, it's a double standard, right? Why aren't we attributing that comment, that negative comment towards, Mexicans and immigrants to Kamala, but we're doing it, same thing, comedian making a joke at a public rally, not being attributed to Kamala, but comedian making a joke at a public rally is being contributed to Trump. Yeah,
the fact that, someone can say that just because this guy was at a Trump rally that Trump had any control or agreed with anything he said, he may not have agreed, but to say that this guy came on the Trump rally and made these jokes and now Trump is automatically endorsing these comments is crazy. And like you said, he's a comedian. This is what they do. Roasting people is their job.
You actually brought up a great point when we discussed it briefly before filming about like knowing the audience.
Yeah, man. And knowing the audience and knowing who's saying things. Like, I'm with Mike. I think it was a funny joke. I'm Cuban. The amount of times I've heard people say, "Oh, did you swim over here? Did you come on a boat?" Like, the amount of Cuban.
I've said that.
Exactly. The amount of jokes, and it's just jokes. So, I think it's like, two things. He should have known his audience, like maybe not the best place to make that kind of a joke. But at the same time, the people that are listening and getting upset about it, they should say like, well, who's saying this?
Yeah.
If, Trump or Kamala makes a comment like that, probably might have a lot of truth behind it. But when you hear it coming from a comedian, you know that they're just saying that to, he probably did exactly what he wanted. This guy, I had never heard of him before. Really? And now he's like famous because he made this one joke on TV. He was going for a soundbite and he got it.
But here's the other thing. I don't think Tony Hinchcliffe knew, like, I don't really want to say he knew what he was doing as well as he probably did, but do you remember back when the incident with Puerto Rico, the hurricane that impacted Puerto Rico, I think, and Trump was out there Kobeing, he was fucking Kobeing paper towels in Puerto Rico. And I was like, that's so bad.
That was, yeah.
So like, yeah, like, look, bad place, bad timing, funny joke. But I think after this election, like, it's going to be funny no matter what, but it is what it is.
I think that the word we're looking for is optics. And with everything being so under a microscope, with how each of these candidates has such a cult of personality behind them, a comment like that or a joke like that. I mean, I can't even say it's a comment. It was a joke.
Yeah.
It's misconstrued. And, Mike brought up Kill Tony. Look, Tony Hinchcliffe goes after everyone. It doesn't matter if you're white, black, Asian, Hispanic. It doesn't matter if you're Tom Brady. I mean, he roasted the hell out of Tom Brady. And then on the flip side, on his Kill Tony show that he hosts every week, people also go in on him.
Yeah.
They're constantly making fun of him. I think that the fact that he made that joke at a Trump rally, it is about knowing your audience because people will say, oh, because you're a Trump supporter, you're racist.
Yeah.
And it's essentially manufactured outrage. One thing that you did bring up was something that happened on CNN.
Oh, yeah. Well, Oliver actually pointed that out to me, right? And this is a great example of like, you know, whether something's a joke in the right time to say it.
Yeah.
Right. So obviously I'm sure the Israel-Palestine war will be going on still when this episode comes out.
And I'll roll the clip for you guys to take a look at.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sitting here saying
I'm a supporter of the Palestinians, so I'm used to it.
Yeah, I hope your beeper doesn't go off. The thing is that
you just say I should die?
You
should not.
No,
Did you just say I should be killed?
No.
Once you roll the clip, and you can see this was a very, very distasteful joke. Or I don't even think it was a joke. It was just a blatantly disrespectful comment. He basically, there was a situation where I've been seeing in the news where, you know, I think Israel and Israel literally put explosives in beepers, bombs, in phones, and all these different sorts of devices, and they gave it over to, you know, Palestine, and they were like, oh, here are these phones, and started like blowing them up and killing people. Like they were killing their opponents doing that. And this guy made the comment like, oh, I hope your I hope your pager doesn't go off.
Something like that. I honestly haven't seen the full clip. I've heard about it, but like this was on CNN in like one of those stereotypical newsrooms when you're surrounded by like 17 cameras. And it's like, dude, that's like a comment you make like in front of your friends. Like you have to, again, know your audience. And this guy, what's the worst about it all is he's not a comedian. This is like a news anchor. Job. Like this is, you know, comedians get special rules.
Yeah.
He was not one.
And that's my thing. Like, look, you can say things in comedy, and that's the nature of comedy. Yeah. Like you are expected. Comedy is something that it's expected to make you laugh, or at least make you think, right? In news reporting and in civil engagement with one another, you gotta be like serious, and you got to be respectful, because having a respectful civil discourse is the foundation of a society. If we can't get along, we can't talk respectfully amongst one another, we're no better than, you know, a bunch of animals going at it.
Why can't we be friends?
Because you're Cuban.
Jeez, know your audience, man. Yeah, no, I mean, kind of going off like, you know, the comedian thing. It's funny because comedians are almost like expected to be like aggressive and roast people. Because like my fiance and I, we went to a comedy show in Chicago, and there was like 4 different comedians, and the first 3 were roasting everybody in the audience, roasting themselves, roasting their friends. The last comedian, who was like the main act, she did this, like she wanted to be like a wholesome comedian where she wasn't roasting anybody, and like she was the least funny out of all of them. Like I wasn't laughing at any of the stuff. She was the most dry at everybody. Like comedians, you know, this is what they do. They roast people. But on the news, as a news anchor, I definitely don't want to see news anchors. I mean, even when news anchors make jokes about like the stories that they're reporting on, even if they're like true, that's not what I go to news for. Like I go to news for, I want serious people telling me what's going on, because once you start making jokes, I don't trust anything you're saying anymore. Like I don't know whether it's real or whether you're just making it up. So it's important that you take it seriously.
I love the fact that you said that. I mean, I feel the same exact way. You know, a guy that, you know, people will circle back to, you know, especially, you know, our parents, our grandparents, like Walter Cronkite. You know, when people go to the news, they want to see the news, right? And I think, you know, what's happened today with news in general is that people are essentially tuning in for entertainment, right? They're not tuning in to actually get what is happening at face value. Comedy is a really tricky subject because we're all fans of stand-up comedy here, and I think it shows you the changing tides of culture, where you used to be able to say anything up on that stage, and comedy should be something that like people don't touch, right? Regardless of what they're talking about, it's a conversation that they're having on stage with the audience that opens up a broader conversation in culture in general. Dave Chappelle does it very well. My favorite comedian of all time, George Carlin, has done it. But nowadays, you go on stage as a comedian, any joke that you make people are trying to find something wrong with it. And I think that that's the completely wrong way to look at things. But speaking about roasts, something happened during the week, and I know Mike was very hurt for somebody that he's a large fan for. I mean, basically a diehard fanboy of this gentleman. So I'll let Mike get it started.
You know, when Hinchcliffe roasted Brady and Gisele went and was like, oh, it was bad. You shouldn't have let him roast. I'm so glad Tom Brady let them roast the shit out of her. It just came out. She's having another kid with her new boyfriend or husband or whatever it is. Number one, like, she doesn't realize how pissed off I am about this situation because
God forbid.
Listen, I'm
We don't
really
want to
mad.
piss off Mike Singh.
No, she doesn't.
Not Gisele
Listen.
Brady.
No, she's not a Brady.
I apologize.
So, but no, like seriously, she screwed up Tampa's last season of the we could have had another Super Bowl and I could have actually probably gone to that Super Bowl because literally the ticket prices weren't $1 million because of COVID, number one. But number two, it really like it like as someone that deals with family and divorce law, right? Like I look at divorce cases. Brady's divorce was obviously super quick, super like fast. It moved through the courts very fast. And it was very private, which is good. I think,
And you brought this up when the divorce was taking place. The reason why it was expedited was they went somewhere, they went to like a smaller city, right?
They went to a smaller county in Florida.
Smaller county,
and
yeah.
it was, all the terms of their divorce were pretty much knocked out. But like, look, Gisele being brought up with this new baby, obviously, like from a lawyer's point of view, the only comments that I have to say on it is, number one, I don't care for her for breaking my boy Brady's heart. But then again, I don't know shit about their relationship, so he could be equally at fault. But since I'm his fan, like Brady can do no wrong. Super Bowl champion, brought another win to Tampa Bay, baby, and that's my boy, now an owner of the Oakland Raiders or what? No, it's Las Vegas Raiders.
Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, I don't even care for the Raiders, but now I do.
I hate to break it to you. Tampa was not repeating that year. They were not. They had a ton of injuries, and that was the year that they were dealing with Antonio Brown running off.
Well, I hate
field.
him too.
Yeah, so that's another guy.
As a bandwagoner, Mike always has to believe.
He does.
Listen, there's a few people I hate in sports. Number one, I hate Aaron Hernandez because he chose to kill people and then ruin New England's chance and Brady's ability to get another ring. I hate Eli Manning because he's just stupid, dumb, lucky. I hate Gisele. I hate Antonio Brown. And that's about all the people I hate right now.
We're gonna.
They've all impacted
these people.
They've all
across the spread.
impacted Tom Brady in some way.
Look, my perspective on this divorce from the outside looking in, the little that I know about it is that when it was part of the pop culture lexicon and everyone was talking about them separating, you hit the nail on the head. Like, I don't know much about their relationship, but from what you do read, he's been playing football at the highest level for many years. And he had the opportunity to potentially keep the family together, but he decided to just go for one more, right? As a peak athlete, as a guy that is a perennial winner. And maybe that was the final nail in the coffin. Maybe that was just something that, it's one small issue amongst many issues that they have. But it just goes to show you, man, somebody like Tom Brady, with as good looking as he is, as successful as he is, not only on the field, but off the field financially, everyone's got their own set of issues. And divorce, seeing the types of cases that Mike handles, that is not something easy to deal with.
Listen, man, all I've got to say is the memories from those Super Bowl rings will never leave him. But she did.
She left him.
Maybe if he had one less Super Bowl ring, she wouldn't have left him.
Yeah.
What's more memorable?
think of that?
So what's more valuable, her or the memory and GOAT status?
What's troublesome is that I can't tell whether you're serious.
I'm very serious.
I mean, my perspective on it is I love Brady. I think Brady is probably one of, if not the greatest QB of all time. He's provided so many amazing memories, on the football field as a football fan, but I wish he had left when he was on top.
Yeah.
The final year he had in Tampa Bay, or the year prior to his retirement season, where he led Tampa Bay to a Super Bowl after he had just left the Patriots, after being such a winner with that organization. That's like, I'll say this about any athletes, like all of us as sports fans, right? I think like when you're at that level, it's just hard to step away.
Yeah.
It's hard to know when to step away. When these guys are on top, it's always probably just like one more. And it's like the fighter mindset, right?
I mean, I can just imagine his wife, because how long was Brady playing?
He was playing since 2001.
Yeah.
I believe.
I think he's played like over 20 plus seasons.
I look at it from her perspective, because anybody who knows me, I don't do sports. And like 23 years is a long time. Football, it's very taxing on your body, on you. I'm sure he was never home, between the season and the training and PR stuff that he had to do. In my head, it's like, you got how many rings? 5, 6, something like that. I think he has. It's like, while I don't agree with like, apparently there was some sort of ultimatum. It's like, stop playing or I'm gone.
Yeah.
I don't agree with like ultimatums like that, but gotta look at it from her perspective. She was 23 years is a long time.
Yeah.
I don't know how long they were married. I would imagine.
I don't.
It was quite some
either.
time, but at the end of the day, your spouse needs
and you have to
your time and energy.
And you have to look at it on the other side of the coin too. Like, she wasn't just some girl off the street, right? Gisele was a top model when she started dating Brady, and throughout like their entire relationship, she put her entire career on hold for him. So look, I see both sides of the coin. But it's always heartbreaking to see a guy like Brady go through something like that. And
is it really heartbreaking? The guy's like the best. I'm sure he's like not worried about this shit at all. And because here's what I was thinking about last night, right? Like, think about it. When all their kids get together, right? And like his kids are like meeting the new kid, and like say they get into a fight as siblings later. He's like, well, yeah, your dad just kicks people's ass. Well, my dad won a shit ton of Super Bowls. Like, my dad's the greatest football player ever. Guess what? Your dad's not like, what's the jujitsu dude? Gracie?
What's his name? The Valente brothers.
Like,
the Valente
literally,
brothers,
literally, in order for her new guy to compete with Brady at all, he would have literally had to been the best jujitsu fighter in the world. He was just employed by the greatest football player in the world, which is why he ended up with Gisele.
I just think it comes down to, look, I don't even think that that's a conversation that they're going to have. It just comes down to...
I'm going to try to make sure that conversation
It just comes down
happens.
to family dynamics and making sure that like it's a loving family, right? Because, one thing that I'll say, and I'm a firm believer in, is you can't compare your problems to other people because you don't know what their problems mean to them.
Yeah.
Right? So for people like us, maybe it's less of an issue, but for somebody like him, who is, like we said, he's a perennial winner. He wins at everything that he does in life, except marriage, right? He went through a failed marriage with Gisele, and that's gotta sting a little bit.
But I'm sure
for
he's
him,
winning
so.
now. So
yeah, I mean, look, shout out to Brady being the new owner of the new
Las Vegas Raiders.
What is it? Minority owner of the Las Vegas Raiders. So yeah,
awesome, man. Well, look,
great convo, guys. Great
everything's
convo.
always a joke. We don't hate Gisele. I mean,
No,
I
we
kind of don't like her, but I don't hate her. And
Gisele, I have nothing against you. Live your life.
If you're watching this,
If you're
only
watching
Mike
this,
hates you.
Oliver and I
look,
love.
all of Tom Brady's kids. I want you all to get along with Gisele's new kid, and you guys make that work.
Yeah.
But I am pretty upset that
Mike's trying to,
He
trying to-
did.
This guy's
I'm like,
heartbroken.
I'm
Again,
messed up,
heartbroken.
bro.
you're trying to make enemies with.
I
the
got to see
jujitsu
him
guy?
play. I got to see him play. No, the jiu-jitsu guy can kick my ass 100%. But it's cool because, you know,
'Cause you got to see Tom
we're
Brady
in Florida. We're in Florida. And listen, if I know, if buddy, I'm protected. It's protected.
Well, guys, look, another great episode. Oliver, man, thank you so much for coming on today. We loved having you. If you guys enjoyed what you saw today, please subscribe. If you have any topics that you'd like to know about legally, please leave them in the comments below. And until next time.